apologies for showing up late. In fact, it was all due to Raju Reddy Garu and Ram Reddy Garu. They held me up back there, so I'm blaming it on them. But nevertheless, thank you so much. It was exactly, I think, 7 years ago, in this very room, if I remember correctly, we had a meeting very similar to this. Back then, 7 years ago, I was here introducing to you the newborn state of Telangana. But today, 7 years later, I've come back, and I would like to introduce to you the triumphant state of Telangana. In fact, since I'm in Bay Area, I think it would be appropriate to say, 15th of August this year, India would be turning 75. And 75, obviously, as you all know, is a momentous occasion in the history of an individual or an organization or a nation. If you ask me, why do I call my state triumphant Telangana? It is because in the last 75 years after independence, I believe, since I'm in Bay Area, I believe that my state, Telangana, is the most successful startup of independent India. And this, again, I'm not merely making a statement for the sake of making one. I will back it up with data. I'll back it up with statistics. Why am I claiming that in 75 years of India, there has not been a more successful state than Telangana? The reason why I say that is because of 3 or 4 simple statistics that I'll present to you, and then you can decide for yourself. In 2014, when the new state of Telangana came into being, when the new state was formed, many of you in this room also had several apprehensions, several doubts in your mind as to what would happen, how things would pan out, how the state would kind of decide its priorities, how it would go about executing its vision. Does the political leadership have the ability to actually administer a newly formed state? And what will happen to the diverse population that there is in Hyderabad? What would happen to the cultural fabric, the cosmopolitanness? What would happen to industry? What would happen to IT? Number of questions, wherever I went, whoever I met, all these questions were asked. But today, I will juxtapose the facts of 2014 versus 2022. In 2014, when Telangana state was formed, our per capita income was about 1,24,000 rupees. And today, 7 years later, 7.5 years later, the per capita income has risen by a whopping 130% to 2,78,000 rupees. This is a matter of, in a span of 7 years. In a span of 7 years, Telangana's GSDP, the gross state domestic product, it was 4.9 lakh crore rupees back in 2014. Today, 7 years later, it is 11.54 lakh crores of rupees, a whopping 130% increase. Now, for those of you who do not understand what this means, how this translates into how well Telangana is doing, let me point out. India has 28 states. Indialo 28 రాష్ట్రాలు ఉన్నాయి. Out of these 28 states, Telangana is the 11th largest state geographically. భౌగోళికంగా తెలంగాణ 11వ అతిపెద్ద రాష్ట్రం. In terms of population, we're the 12th largest state in India among the 28 states. But according to Reserve Bank of India, Telangana today has emerged as the 4th largest contributor to India's economic growth. It has become a powerful economic engine that supports the backward states in India, elsewhere in the country, and it continues to grow at a breakneck speed. In fact, just to put out another statistic so that you understand better, Telangana's population, if you look at it, it's only 2.5% of the total Indian population. But our contribution to India's GDP is 5%, which goes to show you that Telangana continues to punch above its weight, continues to contribute to the nation, continues to grow as a state. In fact, let me also put things in perspective for you. All of this happened. 14% CAGR, compounded annual growth rate, over the last 7 years has happened despite the pandemic last 2 years, and despite not much support from Government of India. had we had normalcy, had we had normal conditions, I would like to believe that we would have grown even further, we would have achieved even more. So how did this happen? How did this startup become so successful? How did it become a unicorn? How did it become what it has become? Synonymous with progress on industrial front, synonymous with progress on agriculture, synonymous with welfare, synonymous with development. How did this happen? Our Honorable Chief Minister of Telangana, Sri KTR Garu, is a man who comes from the grassroots. He's a man who believes that before you talk big, before you talk of the coolest things that are out there in Bay Area and elsewhere, before you talk about semiconductor fabs, before you talk about electric vehicles and all the new things that are happening, before you talk about Web3, before you talk about anything else, he has told us on day one that we as a country, we as a state, need to ensure that the fundamental needs of the people are met with. So what did we do? We said, let's get the basics right. What do the people of Telangana want? When we started our journey, we were languishing on the power front, on the electricity front. We had frequent power outages. Industry was suffering 3 days of power outages. Domestic sector, in fact, each and every house was being subjected to about 6 hours of power cut. And of course, agriculture sector was in a huge distress. 3 days of power holidays for industry, and agriculture sector never received continuous supply of even 6 hours of power during the daytime. That was the situation on the power front. The total installed capacity of power in the state of Telangana was about 7,000 plus megawatts, whereas the demand was more than 9,000 megawatts. So we were reeling under a serious power crisis when the journey of Telangana began. Within a span of 6 months, Honorable CM has been able to solve this major problem which could not be solved in the previous 65 years. For those of you who are wondering, how did he do this? Did he have a magic wand? No. He just had a steely resolve. He was determined to change the course of our electricity situation. What he had done was he went for short-term power purchases. He ensured that our existing plants, the thermal power generation plants, operated at a higher PLF, higher plant load factor. He also ensured that India is a sunshine country. We all know that. We almost have sun for 300 days a year. So he decided that we'll harvest as much solar energy as possible. So today, as a result, what has happened over the last 7.5 years is our installed power capacity has increased from 7,000 odd megawatts to 16,000 plus megawatts. We have more than doubled our installed power capacity. And for those of you who use electric vehicles, for those of you who use hybrid cars, let me also point out, we're a very environmentally conscious state. So our installed solar capacity increased from about 40 megawatts to today about 5,000 plus megawatts. So our 15% of our power, in fact, comes from renewable sources. So that's the commitment of Telangana, and that's how we've been able to take care of our power sector. Today, happy to share with you, 24 hours of free power is given to our farmers, and uninterrupted quality power supply is given to our industries, and no scheduled power outages for the domestic sector. Very few states in India can claim that. The second thing I'll point out, what are the other basic needs of people? I was raised in different parts of Telangana, but my high school was in Hyderabad. I used to commute from my home in Irramanzil colony, which is next to Khairatabad, and go all the way to grammar school, which is in Abbots, Hyderabad. Any St. Georgians here? Ek hai kya yaar? So I used to travel in a RTC bus. It was bus number was 135. It used to go from Khairatabad, Anand Nagar colony to Venkatramana colony to Khairatabad to Lakdika Pool to Abbots. Every summer around this time, March, I'll narrate a story to you. Every summer, when my bus used to pass through that Khairatabad area, there used to be a huge traffic jam. You peep out and see what's going on. You could see that there are women and political leaders protesting on the ground, right in front of that Hyderabad Metro Water Supply and Sewerage Board office. Thousands, hundreds of women demanding water, पानी चाहिए, 14 दिन में पानी नहीं मिलता, 7 दिन में पानी नहीं मिलता. That was the situation. Today, happy to share with you, proud to share with you. In 75 years of Indian independence, no single state, no single leader has done what KCR Garu has done for Telangana. Every single household in Telangana today has a portable drinking water connection. We are a state, we are the only state which has provided 100% portable drinking water connection. And this is not me saying it. This is the Government of India's report, the Jal Jeevan Shakti Ministry, I think Jal Jeevan Mission Ministry, which basically declared on the floor of the House in Parliament that Telangana is the only state which has been able to accomplish this feat. How did we do it? We spent $7 billion, nearly 7 billion, nearly 40 plus crores of rupees. We connected each and every home. We laid nearly 100,000 kilometers of pipeline, which is literally, I think, 3 times the circumference of Earth. That's the vision. And in terms of execution, we were able to get it done in less than 4 years. Now, that is the kind of steely resolve. That is the kind of political will. That is the kind of dreaming big that our leadership, our Honorable Chief Minister is capable of. The third thing I'll point out on the irrigation front. Those of you who are from Telangana or those of you who are familiar with the geography of Telangana would know that Telangana had in fact, always the farmer of Telangana had in fact been heavily reliant on tube wells and bore wells. As a result, the depletion of groundwater levels in Telangana has been so rampant that even some studies of the international agencies have pointed out to a very, very acute kind of a crisis. So what our Honorable CM has done, because of the topography of Telangana, because of how Telangana is undulating and how water actually runs at a lower level and while the contours and while the plain lands are at a higher level. I have no idea how many of you know this. If you don't believe me, you can pull out your phone and type in Google. Please type in the world's largest lift irrigation project. You will realize that it is Kaleshwaram project in Telangana, which has been completed in less than 4 years. It's the world's largest project completed by the youngest state in India in less than 4 years. We often talk about Chinese execution, how well things move in China, how a building was completed in 100 days, how a project was conceived and conceptualized in less than a couple of years, etc., etc. But what Telangana has done is nothing short of a miracle, considering that we live in a democracy. And democracy, there are a lot of things a lot of challenges that are inherent in getting done. So in spite of all the hurdles, in spite of all the obstacles, in spite of all the challenges and the vagaries of democracy, our Honorable CM has been able to deliver on the irrigation front. And therefore today, the situation is such that the produce from Telangana, the harvest from Telangana is so much that even Food Corporation of India is saying, I can't procure more. I give up.
Hi friends, మా టుడే టుమారో యూట్యూబ్ ఛానల్ చూస్తున్నందుకు చాలా థ్యాంక్స్. మరిన్ని లేటెస్ట్ వీడియోస్ కోసం వెంటనే సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేయండి. అలాగే ఈ బెల్ ని కూడా రింగ్ చేసేయండి. మా నోటిఫికేషన్స్ అన్ని మీ మొబైల్లో వస్తాయి. అలాగే మా వీడియోస్ మీకు నచ్చితే లైక్ చేయండి, షేర్ చేయండి, నచ్చకపోతే కామెంట్ చేయండి.